Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host Omar Khalid. But today is the 5th of June 2025. Eid ul-Azha, Eid Isar is just upon us. But before that, we've got lots to discuss with you today. So without further ado, this is the lineup for today. We'll begin, ladies and gentlemen, with the criticism that the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is facing from within India, from the opposition, from the media, and from the world. To top it all is the fact that Indian delegations have been sent to different countries across the world, and they have nothing better to do than to hum and to sing and to enjoy their trips instead of doing what they've been sent to do. So a lot of criticism is coming globally and nationally as far as Narendra Modi, his policies, failed policies, let's put it that way, and of course how effective or ineffective his delegations like that of Shashi Tharoor, as you are watching in the parallel window, are. This and more, and also how Pakistan has been able to highlight its point of view, the truth, and is on the right side as far as the recent events are concerned. And because of what happened post the Pahalgam false flag operation, not only has Pakistan's perspective been appreciated and acknowledged by the world over, but also important issues like that of the Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir are now back in the spotlight. This and more are going to be discussed in our first segment. Our second story concerns the latest as far as Gaza, Middle East is concerned. Today is day 607. The number of casualties keeps on increasing. The famed aid distribution company GHF has opened 1 or 2 centers, but nevertheless stays closed for the moment. And of course, we all know that it is being accused of being a center to lure Palestinians and then to kill them. The number of casualties has exceeded 54,000. The number of injured has exceeded 120,000. The US has vetoed a United Nations Security Council resolution that was calling for a ceasefire and the restoration of aid to Palestine. What are going to be the repercussions of that and more is what we will discuss in our second story. Our third story, ladies and gentlemen, concerns World Environment Day that is being observed across the world, including in Pakistan today. There were 2 important messages that came out, one from the Foreign Office and of course the most important one from our Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif Saab, in which he said that Pakistan joined the international community in reaffirming the commitment to safeguarding our planet and pursue sustainable development. This year's theme, ladies and gentlemen, is putting an end to plastic pollution, and we all know the effects of plastic pollution. Finally, we're going to talk about 2 stories that concern Donald Trump. The first story is that Donald Trump has banned the visas for foreign students at Harvard, and another story is that he has also banned the entry of people from 12 different countries, and this ban comes into effect from the 9th of this month. Why and how is what we will try to understand at the end of the show. Let's begin with our first segment, and that is how Narendra Modi is being humiliated internally, externally, within India, outside of India, how he is being made a mockery of because of his failed policies, let's put it that way. He thought that he might one way or the other be able to ascertain some kind of hold in the region, and his hegemonic designs and his warmongering will gain momentum post the false flag operation in Pahalgam on the 22nd of April. That did not happen. In fact, the world realized that India had been perpetrating such false flag operations since quite a long time, and that is why there was no support for India. And then the thing continued, and then slowly and steadily Indian narrative versus Pakistan narrative became more and more apparent, and it has also been made more apparent by the Pakistani delegation versus, unfortunately, the inefficacy of the Indian delegation. We've been joined by 2 guests to discuss that and more. We've been joined by Naila Chauhan Sahiba. She's a former ambassador in the studios. Thank you very much, Ambassador Sahiba, to have joined us. And then we've been joined by Zaffar Quraishi Saab, who comes from across the 7 seas again to Pakistan to visit us. Thank you very much. He's a renowned Kashmiri leader, Quraishi Saab. Thank you very much to have joined us as well. We'll begin with you, Naila Chauhan Sahiba. The backlash Narendra Modi is facing over Operation Sindoor, isn't it a clear indication that India's war narrative had always been built on lies, political gains, military cover-ups?
That is very true, but they have always been doing it. Why did they fail this time? That is most interesting, because false flag operations they have been doing before as well, and they were getting away with it. To understand that, I would put this whole thing in the geopolitical context.
All right.
Until the American forces were using, you know, the slogan of fight against terrorism since 9/11, the concept of terrorism was very popular in the West. Fight against terrorism, you were a hero. And India, since Modi Sahab came, was trying, and you might recall, he had very blatantly said that we'll isolate Pakistan.
Many a times.
Pakistan is part of the problem, not the solution. Pakistan is a terrorist state, blah, 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 and they went on and on and on. The point is that now there are no American forces anywhere fighting terrorism. Now the boogie of terrorism has become rather redundant. India didn't realize that the world has changed. So using the same false flag and using the same boogie of terrorism, it fell flat on their faces. And if you recall in your last program also, when we spoke on this issue, we did question that if Pakistan had asked for neutral, you know, international observers to come and do the forensic of Pahalgam, India rejected that option.
Continues to reject that option.
Continues to. Why? And then they showed dead bodies of people, while the people they said were dead came on social media and said we are alive. Whose bodies were those? We need to know that, and now Javed Sahab is here, he is from Kashmir, he might know whose bodies were placed there and given the name of tourists.
But Naila Chauhan Sahib, the fact is that it's not the first time that such bodies have been put, and then the freedom fighters in Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir be falsely named or accused and said to be behind this all. Zaffar Quraishi Sahib, I don't understand. Since decades, India has been following this rule of somehow directly or indirectly pointing fingers at the freedom fighters within the Indian illegally held Jammu and Kashmir, and then using the Pakistan card to saying that Pakistan has been backing them, Pakistan has been supporting them one way or the other, directly or indirectly, where Pakistan has always had this stance that we are only going to politically, diplomatically and morally support the people of the Indian held valley. Now that the Pahalgam false flag operation, that was one of many, has been made more apparent and blatantly put in front of the whole world for them to see, realize and dissect. Do you feel the Indian machinations lay bare for all to see, or did the world know that but they were turning a blind eye and a deaf ear to it all?
It's a good question. I think the world's kind of had enough of the fascism, and yes, it's a bit of a both. The world laid bare, as well as the West kind of realized that this jingoism that India always plays whenever it comes to foreign visits, visitors coming in, like for example the Bill Clinton and JD wins at the same time, or whenever it comes to the election times. We talk about Pahalgam now, Pulwama before, and then we had the Sikhs being killed before that as well. This has become sort of a Bollywood repetitive story within the Indian political system, and ultimately I think the world's coming to the point, it's like, hold it, we thought India was something, but what we're actually getting is a completely different reality from India. You look at its GDP calculations, again, yeah, they might be one of the standards, but they've been skewed up to give a different information. When you look at the reality of the Indian economics, to which the world was kind of bending over to say, hey, India is a massive economical marketplace for us. That didn't turn out to be a reality either. Everything that Modi presented to the world to say India was great hasn't really met up to the record that it wanted it to say. It hasn't met those expectations that India set. And I think the world's kind of said, look, enough. We've seen the Pakistan narrative before. Let's come to the reality. There is a fascism that's loose on India. And it's not just against the Muslims. It's against the Christians, it's against the Dalits, it's against the Sikhs. You know, you can say, okay, Kashmir issue is a proxy war for Pakistan, fine, but what about the rest of India? There are over 27 armed movements within India. Pakistan isn't responsible for all of them. The fact is, India is breaking it. And the world is realizing that it's not the India they thought it was. It's not the democratic country that they thought it would be.
But what I would like to understand, Quraishi Sahib, is why now? Why is this realization by the world coming at this juncture of time?
I think, you know, as I said, it's one of those things where India fell on its face. It could not live to the credibility. The geopolitics is changing. US is looking for a more supportive, more allies that can actually stand on what they commit on. And
We'll be continuing our discussion, but we have to go to a short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back, and we're discussing Modi's failed policies post the Pahalgam false flag operation, and now we're just being things are being made more and more apparent as to how the Modi has botched his foreign policy and his country's image. We were talking to Zaffar Quraishi Sahib. Zaffar Quraishi Sahib, how does Rahul Gandhi's open condemnation of Modi's surrender policy, quote unquote, and diplomatic failures expose India's internal fractures and glowing lack of global credibility?
Absolutely. I think this, I was speaking to somebody yesterday, and we were talking about the success that Allah blessed us in this war. But really, it wasn't a war on one front that Pakistan played. We had a multi-pronged war. We had a war that took place in the air, where we won outrightly, alhamdulillah. But we also had a narrative war, and that wasn't something that's just happened now. India has been playing narratives against Pakistan for many, many years. It had over 120 disinformation labs within Europe, targeting Pakistan, its negativity, how Pakistan is a failed nation, and portraying themselves as good. They've always portrayed themselves as Bharat Mahan, Hindutva. The current war, the situation that unfolded, 7th, 8th, 9th and 10th, gave a clear picture about India itself. And I think the Indians themselves had enough. They said, well, all this media that's been telling us is a lie. It's been telling us we won over the Pakistan, we have attacked Pakistan. I think there was a news that I saw on social media which claimed to have captured Asif Munir Sahib, right? And this was a blatant lie. People had enough, the Indians have had enough of it, the opposition has had enough of it, even the BJP themselves had enough of it. And that really, from the world perspective, I think it tells a big, massive story about India, that it cannot be trusted. It is no longer the same democracy that could even be trusted an ounce, right? And you can see how India is now getting divided, fragmented, and I don't think the fascist government that exists now is going to be there for long.
This is what a lot of people are saying, a lot of international analysts as well. Ambassador Naila Chauhan, a New York socialist mayoral candidate, Zohran Mamdani, publicly calls Narendra Modi a war criminal, equates him with Benjamin Netanyahu and the killing of Muslims. How do you see that from an international perspective as well, that the outcry is not only coming from within the Indian populace and the Indian opposition, but also from other people of Indian origin across the world?
Very true. And internationally, you can see, and then you could also bear in mind that the drones that hit Pakistan were Israeli drones. So the axis of this, cooperation between Israel and India, and Netanyahu pursuing a certain policy and India trying to emulate that model, it backfired on India, because the atrocities they have been committing in Kashmir, and particularly then like even in Pulwama, they had killed 40 of their people before they, and you might recall the statement of the interim governor Malik, who said that, when I reported to Modi, that the convoy that's coming is not fully secure, so they need cover, and Modi said, you keep quiet, because it was planted. Similarly, here too, within 10 minutes of the incident, an FIR was filed at a distant place.
And the Indian media started to, go on this rampage and war mongering. And
Exactly.
this is what Zaffar Sahib, I also like to, ask you about. The Washington Post takes out an article and exposes the misleading propaganda by the Indian media during these tensions between Pakistan and India post the false flag operation. How does this also confirm the fact that Indian media is not only a neutral watchdog but an extension of the state's propaganda machine and machinery during conflicts, specifically with Pakistan?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest differences that we did this time, and it's kind of related. In the previous false flag operations against Pakistan, Pakistan has always stayed silent. We've never really responded the way we responded this time. And that's the biggest difference. And the world, the way it was kind of taken is Pakistan is a gone nation. It's weak. Didn't take us seriously. Now, when we actually showed the true strength of Pakistan, I think the world was kind of forced to look at it a bit more closely. Okay, India has been doing all this propaganda against Pakistan. What is the truth in it? Because Pakistan isn't weak. They have really taken over. They've not just won one war, they've actually won 3 wars in this war, which includes the futuristic cyber war, where we took down over, what, 2,500 servers? Not a small amount, and that is the future of the war. And I think, you mentioned earlier that why now? I think that is the biggest difference. And all this Modi, Godi media, that the world was kind of bearing with, and they've said, right, enough is enough. What we do need is the truth. And because I think this war not just impacted India's reputation, it tarnished international reputation. It's tarnished French Rafale's reputation. It's tarnished Russia's S-400 weaponry. So it's really impacting. I don't think the world is ready to go down with India at this point, and this has kind of prompted them to look into this.
All right, you talk about the French Rafales. I'd like to highlight another French political scientist who has backed Pakistan's stance recently as well. You must have heard about him, Christophe Jaffrelot, who has openly acknowledged Pakistan's strategic victory, India's miscalculations, with experts from France and so many other countries that are warning against India weaponizing the Indus Waters Treaty as well. Should Pakistan, or has Pakistan successfully push the international community for preemptive diplomatic guarantees against such threats in your point of view? We've had a very successful visit to New York, where under the chairmanship of Bilawal Bhutto Zardari Sahab, they met a lot of people, a lot of ambassadors in the UNSC, and the meetings were very lucrative, were very positive.
Very true. What happened was that as soon as Pahalgam incident took place, because we are non-permanent member of UN Security Council, an immediate emergency meeting of the UN Security Council was called by Pakistan in New York, in which our permanent representative Asim gave a briefing to all the representatives, not only the permanent representatives, the permanent members, but also non-permanent members. So immediately the world became aware of what had happened. Then after that, our ambassadors in all our embassies all over the world were instructed to give a briefing to their host authorities of what was Pakistan's perspective and narrative. So India first thought that just by doing their propaganda they will get away with it, but we presented facts and figures, and we asked why India is not coming up with evidence. If India is on right, it should have evidence to prove what it's claiming. India could not do that. They did a briefing of diplomats in Delhi, New Delhi, and the diplomats after the briefing said, This was just a briefing without any evidence.
There is no evidence today. There is no evidence. The fact is that
Exactly.
even the Indian delegation that has been to so many countries across the world has had a very, very failed or botched attempt at trying to highlight their perspective or their narrative. It has failed completely. In fact, they are enjoying themselves by singing songs, as the videos claim, of Shashi Tharoor and so many others. One of the ladies in the delegation also, they are enjoying themselves instead of, highlighting what they should have. But I mean, that I'm not an Indian, nor am I representing them, so good for them for getting exposed also on that front. Last question to you, Zaffar Quraishi Saab. Former Indian Home Secretary Gopal Pillai takes out a lot of damning remarks about Narendra Modi's communal agenda and hate promotion policies. He openly talks about them. Don't these things, when he says that Modi has violated the constitutional oath, is pushing India towards civil war, what does all of this reveal about the internal democratic collapse and growing extremism within India?
I think it really just doesn't reveal much, except that what's been happening there for many, many years, that we on the international level, Pakistan and quite a lot of other international communities have been telling the world that this is not the same India that it was created for. The current government is a fascist government, and it is not the secular as it claims to be. India at the moment is on a path, on an agenda of greater Hindutva, the greater India, the greater Bharat. It wants to ensure that there's a dominance, not just within India, but in the surrounding areas, which includes Pakistan, which includes Sri Lanka, and many other countries, where they want to dominate it by the Hinduism. And this is very clear, not just by the statement. If you look at the news that comes from within the India, you'll see it's not just the Muslims. You look at, that have been terrorized by the current Indian government. It's the Dalits, it's the Christians. Everybody is being persecuted except Hindus. Even within Hinduism, Dalits are being persecuted as well. And the world is kind of realizing that. And I think if the world doesn't realize this now, I don't know when it would be. What we will be seeing is another world war, is another Hitler, is another Israel.
We're already seeing another Hitler. It is not a Hitler in the making, it's a Hitler who's present there. The Hitler of the 21st century is there. There are two Hitlers, in fact, in the 21st century. One in the Middle East and one is in this subcontinent.
We might, as Bilawal Bhutto said, we have the Netanyahu and
the Timur
version of the Netanyahu.
Yeah, I think I should have ended with this, the quote of Bilawal Bhutto Zardari. Nevertheless, the whole world realizes, ladies and gentlemen, of what India is doing, or what India has been doing through its media, through its failed policies, and through its pointing the fingers on Pakistan whenever it gets the opportunity to, directly, indirectly, through cyber warfare or through other kinds of warfare, to malign Pakistan, to destabilize Pakistan, even as far as terrorism goes, whether it be the Fitna al-Hindustan in Balochistan, Fitna al-Kharij in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, they all have solid Indian backing behind them. Zaffar Express's incident is just one of the many examples. This brings us to the end of the first segment. I'd like to thank Zaffar Quraishi Saab to have come all the way to the studios and to have joined us. Thank you very much, sir. Till next time, as we say, and I hope you have a pleasant stay these rest of the few days in Pakistan, and Eid Mubarak in advance to you and your loved ones. Let's come to our second segment, ladies and gentlemen. That concerns the Middle East, Palestine, Gaza, whatever is happening in this region. And we've been joined by Muhammad Omar, who's a foreign affairs expert online. Omar, thank you very much to have joined us, to have given us the time. I know the time difference is a bit tough on you. Nevertheless, thank you very much to have been there. Pakistan condemns the storming of the Al-Aqsa Mosque. Not the first time that Israel or the Israeli leaders have, stormed the Al-Aqsa Mosque. How does this reflect Pakistan's consistent stance on protecting Muslim sanctities and upholding international law, particularly in the face of Israeli provocations? How do you see Pakistan's role since this whole conflict began?
Thank you for having me on, Omar. What we're doing is we're witnessing a humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza. As of the latest figures, there have been over 55,000 Palestinians that have been killed. Pakistan has always stated that the United Nations Security Council, which called for an unconditional ceasefire as part of resolutions 242 and 338, which also called for the withdrawal from occupied territories, mutual recognition, and a path to peace must be enforced. Umar, just for context, if you can recall, centuries ago, Hazrat Umar entered Jerusalem peacefully. He protected Christian sites. He allowed for the Jews to return after 500 years in exile. And that set a precedence of coexistence. And that's the kind of leadership with the same moral clarity that's needed now.
All right. Umar, coming back to Israel and what it has been perpetrating, it has killed 3 journalists recently, critically wounded a 4th in an attack on a hospital of all places, a hospital that is known as Baptist Hospital in Gaza City. 38 people have been killed in Gaza today alone. The last 24 hours, 70 people have been killed. Total of 54,677 around have been killed, and this is just an unofficial number. The official number, a lot of people say, has crossed 180,000 as well. What are you foreseeing? What's going to happen with so many new chapters of the Israeli brutality, including the GHF that has been now been closed since 2 days, but luring Palestinians, killing them on pretext of giving them food and water? How low can any country go?
The humanitarian crisis, it is a genuine catastrophe. The world needs to pay attention to what's happening there right now. Everybody needs to understand that the conflict will not be solved through force. It demands diplomacy, justice, and equal dignity for the Palestinians, for the forcefully occupied people in Gaza. No matter how much, what the official figures that you're seeing, the aid that's been able to dribble into the occupied territories in Gaza, it's not enough. Everything is controlled by the Israeli government, all the information you're receiving. So in reality, the humanitarian crisis is far worse. We need to have an international community that's going to guarantee justice and dignity for the Palestinian people. Those who have been responsible for these atrocities against children, against women, against civilians, attacking hospitals and other institutions like schools, they need to be held responsible. They need to be held responsible for their actions.
All right. Ambassador Naila Chauhan, coming to you. The US has now vetoed a UN Security Council resolution calling for an immediate, unconditional and permanent ceasefire in Gaza. And it is the only country amongst the 15 members, the US is the only country that has vetoed this. This is not the first time it has vetoed, it's the 5th time since October 2023 that it has vetoed or blocked a council resolution on Gaza. How does this veto affect the current plight of the Palestinians that continues to become with each passing day?
Indeed, it's worsening by each passing day, and it is a humanitarian genocide. I would say it's a genocide of unbelievable, magnitude. The unfortunate part is that there are vested interests also. As you might recall, Mr. Trump said that he would have a Trump Tower in Gaza, a Riviera. So now they are thinking, just as he wants Greenland to be part of United States, perhaps he wants Gaza to be part of United States also.
But why
the
veto?
Politics of the Middle East has become very convoluted. At one point you have Abrahamic Accord, where you're trying to bring all these neighboring Arab countries to recognize Israel. On the other part, you are eliminating the Palestinian from their existence, while there is a statement of OIC calling for a two-state, solution in which the Palestinian boundaries should be pre-1967, before expansion of Israel. Israel would not accept that because their whole idea is a greater Middle East, a greater Israel. A greater Israel means that they want the whole Abrahamic land, as they define it, to be part of the greater Israel. So I think those countries that are also becoming part of Abraham Accord should be mindful of the real intentions of Netanyahu, and if he expands the way he is, then where is he going to stop? And how would the American politics now play in if Mr. Trump thinks that Gaza can be part of United States? Their interest, it would be a tourist resort for them. What is the future they are planning for Palestine? It's a very grim story. It's a very grim situation, really.
That is true. Does the Israeli military industry profit from the war in Gaza? If so, is this deliberate as well?
It's not just Israeli industry, it is American industry also, because it's United States of America. What do they manufacture mainly? They don't manufacture socks and towels, they manufacture arms. And they have been providing arms to Israel to use as test in the atrocities they are committing in Palestine. So, it's Israeli arms industry, but it's also American arms industry. So, it is in their Western interest not to have peace, because having peace would mean that their new arms cannot be tested there. But funny enough, if you bring this story to our part of the world, in India Pakistan episode on Pahalgam, we use the Chinese support and their machinery, which we adapted and used it for our interest. The Chinese arms industry has developed great credibility in the world. Americans who had promised arms to India are now taking time in sending, because they don't want to lose their money on selling to India. But as far as Israel is concerned, they are continuing to provide them, because there is nobody to resist it. The Palestinians are not nuclear state. The Palestinians don't have arms. They have been fighting with stones. So, they really can't deter this military might that has been created by United States of America, and that's why they keep on vetoing the resolutions for ceasefire.
So, there is a greater benefit, this is what you are trying to say, in the whole, in the guise of genocide, this crimes against humanity, there is much more than meets the eye to a lot of people.
I suppose so, yes.
All right. Ambassador Naila Johan also, if you remember well, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation's episode, in which people were being lured to them for food and water and then being killed.
Yes.
Isn't this another chapter of, this blatant, vicious manner of killing people?
Indeed, indeed. You just don't have words to express how disgusting can it be that you are coming there under the pretext of humanitarian aid, and you are just luring them into one place where they are easier to kill, because they actually want to eliminate Palestinians. It's unbelievable, but it was very interesting, Mr. Bhatt, that I saw one placard that a Palestinian had held in his hand, and it said, just like in the times of Pharaoh, they were killing all the firstborns of the Palestinians, but that one Moses was saved.
Who changed destiny.
Who changed destiny. So he said, there will still be one Moses you won't be able to kill.
That is so true. They can kill the people, but they cannot kill the spirit that is alive within the people in Palestine. Israeli settlers set fire to homes while families are still inside.
Yes.
This happens in
Burn
the occupied.
Them alive.
Yes, it happens in the occupied West Bank. Several Israeli military raids continue to happen in the occupied West Bank as well. Why is the world silent?
See, because it's the same thing. Who is going to fight that army? Houthis. This resolution that United States vetoed, their pretext was because the resolution did not condemn Hamas as a terrorist organization, we refused to vote in favor. That was just a pretext. Hamas was a political party. It was elected party that had to take arms to defend their land.
True.
Now you brand them as terrorists and you on that pretext are doing genocide.
But you know, the fact is, Naila Chauhan Sahaba, before we go to the news, I just wanted to add to a lot of developments that were happening, whether it be the German Chancellor who says Israeli military actions can no longer be justified as the fight against terrorism by Hamas. Then there are other countries, Spain and so many other countries who are openly criticizing it. There are so many countries that are openly now recognizing the state of Palestine. To add to that, there are demonstrations that are protests that are happening in different countries across the world, including the United Kingdom and Paris and so many other countries as well. For the people are realizing what Israel has been doing, and now they are openly retaliating to that. Will that lead to some kind of a change as far as the Western sensibilities vis-a-vis Israel is concerned? I'd like a short answer to that.
Yes, I think so. I think so. There is a God above who protects us all, and inshallah, there will be a change, and then Israel will know where to go.
All right. Last question concerns the opposition within Israel. There is the Israel right-wing coalition that has threatened to quit the cabinet to support an opposition move to dissolve the parliament. The opposition party's Yesh Atid, which is led by former Prime Minister Mr. Lapid, has put forward a parliamentary vote for next week to topple the government, even as the Israeli army continues to do whatever it has been doing. Do you predict a change within the Israeli government? Will it happen? And if it does, will it change the Israeli strategy vis-a-vis Palestine?
I doubt it. They might be changed because basically Netanyahu was doing all these excesses because he has existential threat also. His political career is at threat, at stake. So he thought that Israelis would be following him. But with these atrocities, Israelis have earned bad name also. Not all Israelis
let's see,
so they have decided to join the opposition, but whatever government comes, I don't think they are going to change their
policy vis-a-vis Palestine will remain the same, because this is what they want. They want the greater Israel and they want that change to happen. But until and unless the important countries in the West don't stand up against them, these things will unfortunately continue the way they are. Thank you very much, Ambassador Naila Chauhan Sahaba, to have joined us. Last two stories very quickly. The first concerns as being the World Environment Day. Environment, Pakistan, who doesn't understand how important environment is, then Pakistan, who is one of the most susceptible countries vis-a-vis climate change. We have seen the floods, we have seen the earthquakes, we have seen the change in temperatures and the heat waves that are also grappling Pakistan. In the next days also, we are predicting a heat wave. On World Environment Day, Pakistan joins the international community to reaffirm its commitment to safeguard our planet and to pursue sustainable development. The theme this year of the World Environment Day is putting an end to plastic pollution. It is both timely, it is both urgent, because of the fact that plastic is one of the major causes for environment pollution. Let's hope this brings some kind of a change within the world, not just in Pakistan, but across the world as well. Finally, two decisions regarding Donald Trump. First, US President Donald Trump has signed a new travel ban that targets 12 countries, and he says it was spurred by an attack on a Jewish protest in Colorado. Now, this concerns Afghanistan, Burma, Chad, Republic of Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Eritrea, Haiti, Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan and Yemen. There are also partial ban on travelers from 7 countries: Burundi, Cuba, Laos, Sierra Leone, Togo, Turkmenistan and Venezuela. The second decision that has been taken by Donald Trump is to ban visas for foreign students, especially who are studying at the Harvard University. And this comes because of the fact that Harvard has resisted Donald Trump's requests or demands in the past as well. He has announced this immediate ban on visas for foreign students enrolled to begin studies at Harvard, intensifying this long-standing clash with academic institutions. Let's see where all of this is going to go towards. With that, we come to an end of today's newsroom. We'll see you inshallah tomorrow or maybe on Eid day with more stories and segments that pertain to you, us in Pakistan. Stay safe. Have a very blessed Eid if this is the last show that you're watching before the Eid happens, and have a great days ahead as well, because of course the vacations start from tomorrow. Allah Hafiz.